Hello, my name is Jason Lupton, and this is my Week 3 assignment for FTE 217. Today's date is November 15th, 2025. So today we're going to be talking about the critical dimensions of three components. So I have my safety selector, my bolt, and my buffer, spring, and weight. So let's start with the buffer, spring, and weight. So the critical dimensions for these are, for one, the length of the spring. This controls how much potential energy the buffer weight has before it bottoms out, and this reduces the amount of recoil. So one thing to watch out for as a new gunsmith is ensuring that you have the proper spring and the proper weight for your buffer tube for your rifle setup. So this is the carbine buffer weight and buffer spring compared to a rifle length buffer spring and buffer weight. So our next component is going to be our safety selector, and its critical dimensions are mainly the rolling surfaces here and here. Let's see if I can get a pointer. Here and here. So this is determined by the size of the hole in the lower receiver to accept these. So if these parts are out of dimension, then you could either have a loose safety inside of the receiver, or the safety will not fit into the receiver. You could also have it to where it fits in there tight, and then it is difficult to select safe or semi. Another critical dimension of this component is going to be our surfaces here and here, which determine whether the firing, the trigger can move. When it's safed, this surface is what blocks the trigger from being able to maneuver. When it is on fire, this is the area that allows the trigger to move, allowing the sear to be manipulated. Another critical dimension for these is going to be your detents, and this is what guides the firing or the safety selector in its two positions. Our next component is going to be our bolt, and I did this one because this is probably the most important part of the firearm. So your critical dimensions for your bolt are going to be each of your lugs, because this is what locks the bolt into the chamber when during the locking cycle. So this part interacts with the barrel extension lugs. So as the bolt comes in, it rotates, locking behind the barrel extension lugs to keep the pressure in the chamber until the gas unlocks the bolt. Also on our bolt, we have our extractor. So our critical dimensions for our extractor are going to be our extractor groove here and the bevel here to allow the cartridge to enter our bolt face when it's chambered. We also have our ejector. So our critical dimensions for the ejector are going to be its force due to its spring inside. Also, one of our critical dimensions is going to be our firing pin hole here. This should be large enough for the firing pin to move freely in and out without being so oversized that we end up puncturing primers or anything like that. Also, our gas rings. Our critical dimensions for these are the diameter And one thing to notice in this is that all of the gas rings are aligned differently. So we have one gap here for the foremost, one gap here for the middle, and one gap here for the rearmost. That's just to keep gases from blowing into the chamber, or to the action. And then another critical dimension is going to be our fire pin protrusion hole here. We want to make sure that this is not burred up or anything like that. It's the proper size to allow the firing pin to move freely inside. And then our shoulders as well. Possible damage that can occur is a broken spring on the extractor, a broken lip on our extractor. Improper dimensions on our lugs could cause a bad locking inside of the barrel extension. A faulty spring on our ejector could cause the round to not eject correctly. So this component right here is pretty much used in the majority of our cycle of operations. Feeding, this is what picks up the next cartridge out of the magazine, pushing it into the chamber. Locking or chambering, same thing, is the component that's pushing the cartridge into the chamber. Locking, this is the part that actually locks the cartridge in the chamber until the firing sequence happens. This part is the part of the firing sequence because the firing pin protrudes through the bolt. Unlocking, this cam pin right here, as it's unlocking, is twisting the bolt back to disengage from the lugs. Extracting, this is our extractor here. So when the bolt is locked in, this ejector is hard to do on these AR-10s. This ejector basically goes over the bullet as it's locked in, this part here. So that locks around the rim of the cartridge, and after firing is what pulls the cartridge out of the chamber, and then our ejector throws the cartridge out of the ejection port. So this is probably the most crucial component of the entire system. So there we have it. We have our bolt, our safety mechanism, our safety lever, and our buffer spring and weight. Very rarely should gunsmiths actually have to make any adjustments on the bolt itself. You may have to clean up some of the edges to get burrs off or something like that, but this should not be something that you have to do any serious modifications to. Key areas to watch out for are going to be broken lugs or any damage that could occur. Those should be replaced as soon as possible. If you have to replace the ejector spring, ensure that you are using the proper one, and this will prevent stovepiping or having a spent cartridge stuck inside of the chamber when the next round is trying to be chambered. May have to polish your extractor lip a little bit. Sometimes they won't grab the next round, causing a double feed, but just don't take off so much material that you are no longer able to grab the next round, the cartridge. One aspect of this assignment was to discuss any training that gunsmiths should go through. Beyond what we're learning in this course, there are other courses for AR manufacturers, builders, stuff like that. It's pretty much general knowledge. If you have a basic understanding of gunsmithing, the AR platform is one of the easier ones to work with. So there's plenty of guidance out there from Wing Tactical, Primary Arms, Brownells. There's so much information out there, and it's usually good information. But the main thing is to use common sense. That's all for this video. Hopefully I covered everything, and we will see you next week.